We all want love. Deep down, every one of us craves connection, partnership, someone who sees us, truly sees us and chooses us every day. But the hard truth is most relationships don't fail because of a lack of love. They fail because we don't understand what love actually requires. We confuse the spark for the substance. In the beginning, it feels magical. The chemistry, the excitement, the rush. It's easy to believe that this feeling will last forever. But chemistry is like kindling. It burns fast and bright. What sustains the fire is compatibility. Shared values, mutual respect, emotional safety. When the spark inevitably fades, it's the quality of our foundation that determines whether the relationship survives or crumbles. And when conflict shows up, as it always does, we often fall into the trap of wanting to be right rather than wanting to be connected. We get defensive. We turn disagreements into battles to win instead of opportunities to understand. But relationships aren't about victory. They're about empathy. Every time you choose to understand instead of defend, you're choosing the relationship over your ego. The silence between two people is often louder than the words. It's not always the yelling or the arguing that ends a relationship. It's the avoidance, the unwillingness to have the hard conversations, the fear of rocking the boat. But growth doesn't happen in comfort. Relationships thrive when both people are brave enough to sit down and say, this is how I feel. This is what I need. Do we face this together? And yet we expect our partners to read our minds. We assume that if they really loved us, they would just know. But love isn't mind reading, it's communication, it's clarity, it's the daily choice to say, here's what's on my heart, and the grace to hear what's on theirs. Unspoken needs become unmet needs, and unmet needs slowly become walls of resentment. Somewhere along the way, we also bought into the myth of perfection. The idea that there's this ideal partner out there who will meet every need, never make mistakes, never disappoint us. That illusion is dangerous. A real relationship isn't about finding perfection. It's about creating something real with someone willing to grow beside you. It's about two flawed people choosing progress over perfection, day in, day out. And perhaps most importantly, we stop being intentional. At the beginning, we show up fully. We text back quickly. We plan dates, we listen deeply, and then life happens. We get busy, we get tired, and without realizing it, we start showing up halfway, or not at all. Relationships don't fail all at once. They fade, erode. In the little moments we stop trying, stop appreciating, stop showing up. Love isn't something you find once and keep forever. It's something you build on purpose every single day. If your relationship is struggling, it doesn't mean it's broken. It means there's something asking to be seen, understood, and healed. The fix isn't always easy, but it's always possible. Start with yourself. Be honest, be vulnerable, be willing to grow, and then invite your partner into that same space. In the beginning of any relationship, everything feels electric. You meet someone and suddenly the world feels a little brighter. The conversations are exciting, the attraction is strong, and your mind starts racing with all the possibilities. That feeling, that buzz, that emotional high, we call it chemistry. And it's powerful, so powerful in fact, that we start to believe it's everything. That if we feel this much intensity, it must mean something real, something lasting. But chemistry is not compatibility. Chemistry is the spark. Compatibility is what keeps the fire burning. And if we mistake the spark for the substance, we risk building a relationship on feelings that can't sustain the weight of real life. Chemistry is instinctive. It's emotional. It often happens without any effort. You feel drawn to someone, sometimes without even knowing why. And while that rush can feel incredible, it's also fleeting. It's the honeymoon phase where flaws are overlooked, where effort feels effortless, and where everything just seems to click. But chemistry is not a predictor of long-term success. It's an emotional illusion that can cloud our judgment and make us ignore the most important questions. Do our values align? Do we communicate well? Do we handle conflict with respect? Do we support each other's growth? Compatibility is quieter. It's not fireworks. It's the steady flame. It's built over time through shared experiences, open conversations, and hard truths. It's discovering how someone handles stress, how they treat you when they're tired, how they show up when things aren't easy. It's learning whether your lifestyles complement each other, whether your emotional needs match, and whether your long-term visions are even pointing in the same direction. When we chase chemistry alone, we often ignore red flags, we excuse behavior that doesn't sit right with us, we rationalize misalignment because the connection feels too good to walk away from. But emotions without alignment can only carry a relationship so far. Passion can start a relationship, but purpose, shared purpose, is what sustains it. There's also this idea that if you don't feel instant chemistry, it's not meant to be. But some of the strongest relationships don't start with fireworks. They start with safety, respect, curiosity, and they grow deeper with time. Chemistry can be built. Compatibility must be discovered. And when you find both, that's rare. That's worth holding on to. The danger of overvaluing chemistry is that we jump into relationships based on how someone makes us feel in a moment, rather than who they are consistently over time. And then, when the high fades, as it always does, we wonder what went wrong. We say things like the spark is gone, or it's not the same anymore, when in reality, we just never took the time to build something real. Healthy relationships aren't about constant excitement. They're about emotional safety, about choosing each other every day, about being with someone who may not always give you butterflies, but who gives you peace. Someone who listens, who respects you, who grows with you, not just loves the idea of you in the honeymoon phase. So if you're looking for something real, don't chase the spark. Chase the foundation. Pay attention to how someone makes you feel when things aren't perfect. Look for alignment in values, communication, and emotional maturity. Don't just ask yourself, do I feel a connection? Ask, can we build a life together? Because chemistry might get you in the door, but compatibility is what keeps you home. One of the most common reasons relationships break down isn't lack of love, it's the constant need to be right. Somewhere along the way, we began to associate being right with being strong, being smart, even being worthy. And in that pursuit, we've forgotten the purpose of connection. We've started treating relationships like debates to win rather than spaces to be understood. When you prioritize being right, you stop listening to understand. You start listening to respond, to defend, to correct. Your goal shifts from connection to control. You may win the argument, but you lose something far more valuable: trust, safety, closeness. The truth is, most disagreements in relationships aren't about facts. They're about feelings. And feelings aren't right or wrong. They're real. When your partner says, that hurt me, and your response is, well, that wasn't my intention, you're defending your position, not validating their experience. And validation is everything. People don't want perfection. They want to feel heard. They want to feel like their emotions matter. But the ego gets in the way. It whispers, you didn't do anything wrong. They're overreacting. You need to explain yourself. And so we go into defense mode. We argue our side. We bring up the past. We try to prove that our view is the correct one, that our pain is more justified, our logic more sound. And in the process, we lose sight of the person in front of us. Relationships aren't about keeping score. They're not about who was technically correct. They're about being a team. And teams don't fight to win against each other. They fight to win for each other. Connection requires humility. It means being willing to put your ego down and say, even if I don't fully agree, I can see that this matters to you. Let's work through it together. It's not weakness, it's strength. It's the strength to be wrong, the strength to say, I may have missed something, the strength to choose repair over pride. In many cases, both people are right from their perspective. But being right in your world doesn't always translate to being kind in theirs. And kindness is what keeps people close. You don't have to lose yourself to stay connected, but you do have to lose the idea that relationships are about winning. The moment we shift from me versus you to us versus the problem, everything changes. Suddenly the argument becomes a puzzle to solve together, not a war to survive alone. The room becomes safer, the voices get softer. And understanding takes the place of defensiveness. It's okay to have different perspectives. In fact, it's inevitable. But the goal of communication in a healthy relationship isn't agreement. it's alignment. It's not about convincing the other person to see things exactly your way. It's about meeting somewhere in the middle. It's about asking, what matters most, my need to be right or our need to feel close? When connection is the priority, love becomes less fragile. Misunderstandings become moments of growth. Disagreements become deeper understanding. And relationships become what they were always meant to be, not battlegrounds, but safe havens. So next time you're in a heated conversation, ask yourself one thing: do I want to be right or do I want to be close? Because you can't always have both. But when you choose connection, you both win. Most relationships don't fall apart in the moment of explosive conflict. They unravel slowly, quietly, through the conversations that never happen. The things we don't say, the truths we swallow, the feelings we bury. They don't go away, they collect. They grow in the dark, and eventually they create distance that love alone can't bridge. We avoid the hard conversations because they're uncomfortable. We tell ourselves now's not the right time, or it's not worth the fight, or maybe it'll just fix itself. But silence is not safety. Silence is avoidance. And avoidance becomes disconnection. The irony is, we think we're protecting the relationship by not bringing up difficult topics. We think that staying quiet will keep the peace. The peace without honesty is just a pause before the storm. When we don't speak our truth, we start performing. We say, I'm fine, when we're not. We smile to keep the mood light even when our hearts are heavy. And little by little, we stop being ourselves in the relationship. Hard conversations are the problem. It's the absence of them that becomes the problem. Because here's the truth. You cannot grow what you're not willing to face. You cannot fix what you refuse to name. Whether it's unmet needs, unresolved resentment, or unspoken fears. Every healthy relationship demands the courage to have uncomfortable conversations. But it's not just about what we say, it's about how we say it. Hard conversations don't have to be hurtful. They can be compassionate, vulnerable, and filled with care. It's not about blaming or accusing, it's about revealing. It's about saying, this is how I feel, this is what I need, this is what I'm struggling with. That kind of honesty builds intimacy. It creates trust. It says, I care enough about us to be real. And yes, it can be scary. We fear rejection. We fear conflict. We fear that telling the truth will break the relationship. But more often than not, it's the silence that does the damage. Because when people feel like they can't be honest, they start to feel alone, even when they're not. The relationships that last aren't the ones without conflict. They're the ones where both people are willing to sit at the table even when it's hard. They're the ones where someone can say, this is painful, and the other replies, tell me more. They're built by people who understand that discomfort is temporary, but disconnection can be permanent. The real measure of a relationship isn't how good things are when it's easy. It's how safe it feels when it's not. Can you bring your full self into the room? Can you say the thing you're scared to say and still be met with love, not judgment? That's what creates emotional safety. That's what creates depth. And sometimes, yes, the hard conversation reveals misalignment. Sometimes it brings things to the surface that are difficult to hear. But even then, it's a gift. Because clarity, even when it's hard, is always better than pretending. At least then, you're dealing with truth. And truth gives you a chance to either heal or part ways with honesty and respect. If you want a real relationship, you have to be willing to go there. To lean into discomfort, to open the door to the conversations you've been avoiding. Because behind those conversations is where the real connection lives. That's where trust is built. That's where love matures. So ask yourself, what needs to be said? What have I been holding back? And who would we become if we had the courage to talk about it? One of the most damaging patterns in relationships is the silent expectation. The belief that if someone truly loves us, they should just know. They should know what we're feeling. They should know what we need. They should know when we're upset, when we need comfort, when we're feeling neglected. And when they don't, when they miss the cue or fail to show up the way we hoped, we don't always tell them. We just withdraw. We become disappointed, hurt, maybe even angry, but we don't say anything. Because in our minds, they should have known. The problem is people can't read minds. No matter how close two people are, no matter how strong the bond, we all come with our own unique set of thoughts, feelings, histories, and ways of processing the world. Assuming someone else can intuit exactly what we need without ever expressing it is not love, it's a setup for resentment. What starts as a quiet frustration can grow into a pattern of unmet needs. And those unmet needs begin to change how we see the other person. We begin to interpret their actions or inactions as evidence that they don't care enough or that they're not paying attention. But often they're not being neglectful, they're just unaware. Because we never gave them the chance to meet us where we truly are. We think that asking for what we need makes us needy or weak or too much. But clear communication isn't a burden. It's a bridge. It's how intimacy is built. When we say, here's what I need, we give the other person a chance to step up. And more importantly, we give ourselves the chance to be truly seen and understood. It takes vulnerability to speak your needs. It takes self-awareness too, because sometimes we haven't even paused long enough to figure out what we really want. We just know we're frustrated. But emotional maturity means slowing down, getting honest with ourselves, and then sharing that honesty with the people who matter. It's not enough to assume love will translate into understanding. Love needs direction. It needs language. If you want your partner to show up for you, you have to tell them how. If you need more words of affirmation, say it. If you feel disconnected and want more quality time, express it. If you're carrying something heavy and need someone to simply listen, name that. Because unspoken needs stay unmet. And unmet needs eventually become a wall between two people who still care but don't know how to reach each other. In healthy relationships, asking for what you need isn't selfish. It's responsible. It shows that you value the connection enough to want to make it better. And it creates a culture of openness where both people feel safe to bring their full selves to the table. You also have to be ready to offer the same in return. When someone shares a need with you, listen without defensiveness. Don't take it as a criticism. Take it as an invitation to show love in a way that matters. Not with blame, not with assumptions, just with honesty. Because the deepest connection isn't built through perfect understanding. It's built through intentional communication. And no one can love you well if you don't first teach them how. In relationships, we often chase an illusion, the perfect partner, the perfect connection, the perfect love story. We carry around checklists of traits, expectations, and ideals that we believe someone should meet before we allow ourselves to fully commit, fully trust, fully love. But perfection isn't real, and the more we chase it, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment. We expect people to show up without flaws, without baggage, without making mistakes. We expect relationships to be smooth and effortless, as if love were some magical force that once found requires no effort to maintain. But love doesn't work that way. People are messy. Relationships are complex. And growth is never linear. When we chase perfection, we overlook progress. We miss the beauty of small steps, of learning together, of building something meaningful over time. We trade the real for the ideal and then wonder why nothing ever seems to last. No one enters a relationship with a perfect set of tools. We all bring our stories, our wounds, our insecurities. The question isn't whether your partner has flaws. They will. The real question is, are they willing to grow? Are they self-aware enough to learn? Are you both willing to evolve together, even when it's uncomfortable? Chasing perfection keeps us stuck in fantasy. It convinces us that if someone truly loved us, they would never hurt us, never argue, never misunderstand us. But in reality, even the healthiest relationships will face conflict, confusion, and imperfection. That's not failure. That's normal. What matters is not whether problems arise, but how we handle them. Do we run or do we lean in? Progress is about choosing each other again and again, even after mistakes. It's about being honest when it's hard, forgiving when it's needed, and showing up when it matters most. Progress is messy. It's vulnerable, but it's also real. And real will always outlast perfect. When we let go of the illusion of perfection, we allow space for grace. We stop expecting our partner to be everything, and instead we start appreciating who they are. We stop punishing them for being human and start recognizing the effort they're making. Because it's not about having the perfect relationship, it's about building a healthy one step at a time. And the same goes for ourselves. Sometimes we hold back in relationships because we think we aren't perfect yet. We don't feel ready to be loved until we've fixed everything. But love isn't something you earn by becoming flawless. It's something you grow through together. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of connection. You just have to be willing to try, to learn, to take responsibility for your growth. Progress means showing up, not just when you feel your best, but when you're struggling too. It means communicating, apologizing, adjusting. It means being patient with your partner as they navigate their own growth journey. Because real love isn't about meeting some impossible standard. It's about becoming better together. If you're always chasing perfection, you'll never feel satisfied. You'll always find something that's missing, something that could be better. But if you chase progress, if you value growth over flawlessness, you'll start to see relationships for what they really are. Not destinations, but journeys. Not tests to pass, but spaces to evolve. Let go of the idea that love is supposed to be perfect. Instead, focus on whether it's honest, whether it's respectful, whether it's moving forward, even slowly. Because in the end, it's not perfection that makes love last, it's progress. In the rush of life, we often let relationships happen by accident. We meet people, we feel the connection, and then we just see where it goes. We let time and circumstances dictate the rhythm, and we hope that the relationship will naturally grow into something meaningful. But the truth is, relationships don't evolve just because two people like each other. They evolve because both people choose to put in the work day after day. They grow because there is a deliberate decision to nurture the bond, to build it with care, and to keep it strong through intentional effort. Intentionality is about purpose. It's about showing up, not by chance, but by choice. It's about setting aside time to truly understand the other person, their dreams, their fears, their values, and their needs. It's about being present, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And it's about prioritizing the relationship even when life gets busy or distracting. When relationships lack intentionality, they often stagnate. We assume that love alone will sustain us, but love needs more than just feelings. It needs effort. It needs action. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. And that choice must be reinforced every day through small gestures, through communication, through empathy, and through the willingness to grow together. In many relationships, we wait for things to feel perfect, for the right moment to do something special, to have that difficult conversation, to show up in ways that matter. But the right moment rarely comes. Waiting for things to just fall into place is a passive approach, one that leaves the future of the relationship up to fate. And while it's true that some relationships do have that serendipitous quality, most require consistent, thoughtful effort from both sides to thrive. Being intentional in a relationship means knowing your values and aligning them with the person you're with. It's not about agreeing on everything, but about understanding each other's core beliefs and desires and making sure you're building a life that supports those values. It means having the difficult conversations, the ones about long-term goals, about expectations, about how to handle conflict, and about what the future might look like. These conversations aren't easy, but they lay the foundation for trust, transparency, and mutual respect. Intentionality also means knowing when to show up and when to step back. Relationships aren't about being there all the time. They're about being there when it counts. Sometimes that means creating space for the other person to grow or to process their own emotions. Other times it means being right beside them, offering support, understanding, and care. But without intention, without actively deciding when and how to engage, we risk becoming disconnected, drifting apart as we get caught up in the noise of life. And let's not forget that intentionality requires us to be proactive. In today's world, it's easy to get lost in routines and distractions. We forget to check in with our partner, to express gratitude, to take a moment to simply appreciate each other. But those small acts of kindness, those thoughtful gestures, are what keep the relationship alive. They remind each other that they matter, that they're seen, and that they're valued. Without those intentional acts, relationships can easily fade into the background, and one day we wake up and realize we've neglected something important. Being intentional also means being open to feedback and growth. It means looking at a relationship not as a fixed thing, but as a dynamic process, one that requires both partners to continuously learn and adapt. It's about being willing to change and evolve together, not because something is wrong, but because growth is necessary. A relationship that is not growing is a relationship that is shrinking. If you want a relationship that lasts, you need to approach it with intention. Don't wait for love to magically fix everything. Don't assume that time alone will make things better. Take the time to nurture it. Be deliberate with your attention. Be thoughtful in your actions. Prioritize it and show your partner that they matter, not just through words, but through consistent, meaningful choices. The relationships that stand the test of time aren't the ones that happen by accident. They are the ones where both people made a conscious decision to show up, to invest in each other, and to build something together with purpose.